looking at you as a parent, as a grandparent, and looking at you as you were growing up, and looking at your trajectory, what would you like to say in terms of maybe the support? Because the children, they need a kind of guidance, a kind of they need to figure out how to be in this world, no?
Sure.
So what kind of support do you think parents should give to their children in terms of trying to find their voice in this world? Hello and welcome to Obehi Podcast. I'm your host, Obehi A14, and I strongly believe that everyone has a story to share. Now let's get started into this episode.
Well, first and foremost, we need communities. We need our communities back. Those have been broken down. You'll find that we're all living in a very tight space, and we need to have that appreciation for others in their tight space as well. So for instance, it's the communities that should be growing children, as they're a part of it. And there's not so much of that going on these days. All that support seems to have been withdrawn. And I also think as well, when I was younger, they used to, all the families used to get together. We used to all eat and do things, and socialize together, every day, every week. Not so much here these days. Everything's very broken. The children don't relate to their parents. Parents don't relate to their children. And there's a lot more influences around as well. You'll find that with social media, the invention of social media, the propaganda from mainstream media, as well as there seems to be very little support from our current government in terms of the youth, and in terms of the youth from sort of local environments as well. People who are working class or the poor, seems to be very little support being offered to them. So what happens there is, without them getting that support, they grow up to be very angry children, and I feel that they find their own ways of finding justice, which may not be helpful for society or for themselves and their families. We need to change that narrative. We all need to take ownership, for the current state of affairs in this country and around the world. And we all need to be doing what we can to make it a better place.
Is there a kind of explanation of how we get to where we are today? Because you talked of the past that was beautiful, as it were, no? And
it had problems. It wasn't ideal, but it was a lot better than what we have today. People more together. You would see sort of grandparents and parents, all involved, with the children, etc. It seems to me now that, especially, I wouldn't say especially, but since the pandemic mainly, everyone's being told to keep to yourselves, stay in your own home, and be careful of how you're intermingling with other people. What has that done? That's helped to further separate society, has it? And, and since the war, if you've noticed, there is no more COVID, I know people, that's instantly vanished, and I know of people that have never had the vaccination, and we found out recently that it doesn't work anyway. So, the majority of the country have offered their arms up, to be vaccinated, to lessen the risk to other people. But, we've all since learned that whether you have it or not, you are still subject to this, We need to figure some things out, and we need, agencies and the media, mainstream media as well, need to take some responsibility, because they spin the narrative that they want to spin, when it suits them. We just need to have more cohesion, because, some of the messages that are being translated across our screen, are probably not some of the best representations.
All right. Some of the messages on our screen are not the best representation in some cases. Yeah. Fine. Now, it means that all of us then have a responsibility at this point, because now there is a social media, there is a possibility of making a contribution. There are possibilities like yours, which is in the book publishing. We are going to go just now. Is there something that we can do as individuals to contribute to this information that we want to consume. Because I think a lot of people spend too much time consuming, not producing. Because they leave that job to other people to do. And at the end, we are going to have to complain that they didn't do a good job. But what about you that spend all the time just scrolling on Facebook? Couldn't you have done something, just saying your own? Like, how do you see the world? Because how long do you think you are going to live in this world that you don't you also think? Like, don't you also have a point of view? Like, can't you also sing? If you cannot sing, can't you dance? I mean, how do you see the responsibility of the ordinary people in this information creation and consumption?
I think, like anybody, I would say the best way, it's not even so much about having a talent, as it were. I mean, if you are naturally gifted at something, I would find a way of displaying that and presenting that to the world, and finding a way to get paid from it so that you can do it long term, and make a real difference. It doesn't always have to be a monetary gain. You can do things with a missionary approach that will also bring in funds thereafter. But I also feel as well that we just have a responsibility to do the right thing, and we all know what that consists of. And it means to do anything that isn't the wrong thing. So anything that's opposite of wrong, should be considered. So, for instance, whereas I write, I have a responsibility to source writers that are not from the industry, but that want to join the industry and have a story to tell. And it's my responsibility to publish that person or teach them the skills so that they can do this for themselves as a career. And that's what I think that in our business is different from other publishers, whether it be traditional or independent. They do it for a monetary gain. We do it because we want them to be able to spread the word about what they do, teach these skills to somebody else, because that helps to create our legacy. And we're a part of theirs as well. And I also feel as well with these real stories, it gives them an opportunity to change society. For instance, our second publication, which was my business partner's, 2020 Sublimes, is now taught as part of the national curriculum in Georgia State University. You never know the difference that these publications are going to make to people. They reduce crime, they bring about positivity, they encourage other people. There's lots of things that a real book can offer.
Thank you so much for that. All right, now we are moving into the publishing. First of all, tell us about the image that we are seeing at your background. I seem to be seeing something there. Tell us something about that, then we are moving to the publishing.
So this is a background screen. I suppose you would use them within a Zoom meeting like we're having here, or for any reason why you might want to sort of display your work. So as well as this is one of the last things that we would do with the book, and we would leaf through it. If it was a hard copy, we would leaf through the hard copy. And so that's just a depiction of that there. And it signifies that we are in the book business. As well as in the book business, we also offer media services as well. And there's a couple of books there in the background with our logo on it. It's a new logo for us as well.
All right, thank you for that. At least those that are seeing it, they know what it is now.
Yeah.
Okay, Beauty and the Beast Publishing. Tell us about it. Okay,
so Beauty and the Beast Publishing was born in December of 2020. As I stated, I had met with my business partner, who comes from a very challenging background, and we published a novelty publication together, which was a poetry book. And from there, we decided that we wanted to continue working because from not knowing each other, we were complete strangers, obviously, before we met. And under the strange circumstances in which we did meet, we realized that we had a really good formula. Within the space of 2 weeks, we had our book down, our book cover done, and we were ready to publish, So we realized we had a really good formula together. And from there, we decided that, we were both not typically from the industry. And we wanted to see more authors like us. We knew that when we were setting up our business, that there were other authors that were also experiencing the hardships that we had in coming into the industry and becoming published authors. So, and we wanted to go one step further with that, not only just making them authors, but we wanted to offer them a lifetime service so that they could continue this in their own careers, whether it just be as an author, or if they wanted to learn about the publishing side of things, they could come via the academy that we have and learn all of those skills, as well as publish a book within 12 weeks.
If you enjoy this podcast, make sure you subscribe so you never miss any of our future episodes. Rate and review Obehi Podcast and share with your friends who might need it. I remain Obehi Ewafo. Thank you so much for listening, and talk to you in the next episode.